And now we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and now Instagram. As everyone is going to start trickling in here in a second. And that, with that in mind, I'm going to take a quick refresh of my voice before we get started. Hello, everybody, as they're starting to come in now. Welcome back. It's good to be back. We have been working on this for a very long time, and it's good to see you all again. We got a couple little things we can talk about. Before we begin, I will say please try and keep spoilers out of the chat, just because we have a lot of people who may not have been able to listen today, and also, you know, we just want to make sure that our fans are, you know, they get to experience things as they happen. Also, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, put them in the comments. I can see them as we go through. I can respond to some of them, but we also have an assistant. Gino is here today, and Gino is putting all the questions and stuff that might happen inside the chat inside of a little sheet, so I can refer to them as we go along. So if you have any questions or things that come up, complaints, concerns, feel free to throw them in there. I have gotten plenty of questions, complaints, and concerns from all the comments I've read in the past, but that's okay. I can address some of them as we go along here. The first one being, why on earth did it take so long for us to come back? Well, like anything, it takes a long time to do all these productions. If you've listened to the episodes this week, they are incredibly complex, and the next ones after that are equally as complex. And it takes us a long time to go through, and not only do we have to record them, but you know, after we're done recording, then we have to go through, select all the takes, go through, do all the pacing, do all the sound effects work, Foley work. On top of that, we have to get the episodes done in time to then go back and do music, because music has to come in, and the episode kind of has to be in the mostly finished by the time we get to that point. So it's been a lot. It's been a while to get this going, but we are hard charged into the second half of this season 2. Vermilion's got it right. Art takes time, and it's something that we want to get right. And these episodes are fairly complex, as you've kind of heard, and we just, we want to make sure that everything is as perfect as possible. This one, it won't give any spoilers, hopefully, but we had to do a pass at doing like snow walking. We had to climb a tree. We had to put an actor underwater. We had a lot for this one, and that's just a start. We have some upcoming episodes that you'll be able to experience even more. Matter of fact, I'm actually I've been editing one of them myself already, chapter 11, which is pretty far down the line, and I'll probably end up working on that after the live stream today. So excuse me. One of the questions that came up is, what's the best way to support the show and series? Well, a couple ways. Sharing it with your friends, letting other people know about the show. That's the easiest one, first off. Secondly, if you want to support in any monetary way, we have a Patreon channel where we have lots of behind-the-scenes videos, a lot of different script releases, and really cool, like, behind-the-scenes stuff that maybe you won't get to see on our normal channel. So these are all ways in which you can support, but really just sharing the show is something that, it's very easy to do, and it costs you nothing. And if you know somebody else who would be interested in listening, bring them on board. It's nice to be able to talk about and theorize, and especially as the episodes go on, there will be more things that you're going to have questions about, and a lot of the theories. And I have a lot of theories that actually have been coming down the pipe. So we can talk about that a little bit. Let's see here. Let me check something really fast. Check. There's a little technical thing. Hopefully that's better, Gina. All right, so let's get into, I guess, some of these theories. And I'm gonna try and not spoil the things as much as possible. Let's see here. I want Vera to meet her dad. Well, that's hopefully not much of a spoiler, but weirdly enough, I had to check the episode today because there might be a conversation about that in the next episode. So that'll be something to look forward to. There's a theory about who did what to Michael, which I won't really address just yet. That's still going to be an ongoing mystery in the series, is what exactly happened there. And it's one of those mysteries that I decided early on that I want to start the series with and kind of, go from there. And eventually it will be revealed. We're going to get little trickles along the way. I'm sure it's one of these mysteries also where I'm pretty sure someone is going to figure it out ahead of time, but you're not going to know until it's actually confirmed. Let's see here. Logan says they all make it out. Everyone lives happily ever after. Well, Logan, that's one could hope, but in this series, you never know. Keener has an interesting theory about Saul, thinking that he's still around, which is very interesting. We'll have to see what happens there, and a couple other little theories in there from coming in from Instagram. Let's see here. Scott says Michael comes flying in to save the day. A man can dream, can't they? Anyway. Let's see. And Dakota coming in from Facebook thinks that one of the third contestants that might be, might have found a way out in their own arena already. Hopefully that doesn't spoil anything. So yeah, there's a lot of little fun things that are gonna kind of happen in the next couple episodes, and it's pretty fun. These episodes have been very interesting in a couple ways because there's a lot of things that we still have yet to reveal that's sort of happening, on the surface, but also behind the scenes. Some of them that will actually be revealed on the next episode, and the ones previous or ones following, excuse me. Which is kind of fun. I'm excited to bring you the next iterations and reveal where it all goes. Let's see here. A couple more questions that are coming in. Let's see here. We have, will there be a short story of the families? Well, that's actually something that we've been working on. It's been ongoing for a while. We started it actually way before the pandemic, and I think it's about halfway written. It is a short story. It's a book. We didn't want to do an audio drama for it because it didn't really fit that world given what was happening. We have a code name for it, and I don't know if I'm going to tell you the code name just yet, just because it's a working title. But it essentially follows two characters in the family and what happens to them. I can reveal that one of them is Scratch, and so I'll leave you with that. And the reason why it hasn't been released yet is a couple of reasons. One is we're still writing it. It's taking a while to coincide. Also, I don't want to release it until we hit a certain point in the series. And the reason why is because the book would reveal a whole lot of stuff that's actually going to happen inside the series. So it's better to discover it here rather than reading a book and then seeing it happen later. So that's just the idea. Smoke says, "Sup, Casey? How are you?" I'm doing well. I am working away. It's been quite a journey lately. I am actually, weirdly enough, we are releasing Chapter 6, and I just finished writing Chapter 16. So I have been working very far ahead in this series, making sure all the little pieces fall in place. And as I'm writing Chapter 16, editing Chapter 11, and working through all the iterations of the releases and making sure they're all, perfect as they go out. So it's been a lot lately, but it's been going pretty well. And for those of you in our World Life community, we will be actually having some community events coming up. We actually are working on doing one that's going to revolve around Minecraft because, well, I'll be honest, I have a 6.5-year-old who got way into it and drug me into it as well. And so we've been having a lot of fun. So we're going to be doing a little community night, or it may be longer than a night, where we're going to get a little realm going with a whole bunch of people. And I think the idea is the first iteration is we're going to maybe build a tower and have everyone, make their own apartments in the tower, and that'd be kind of fun for a little community event. So we're gonna do that. We're just probably gonna do a very simple survival world, and then we are looking at doing a later event where there is like a couple of maps that are like survival horror that already have like a city that's pre-made. That I'd love to do a community event around. But we're gonna start small first. We're gonna start with a little survival server in the Minecraft world and have some fun with that. And because it's we'll do like a month-long realm just to see how it goes, where we can build a tower together and have some fun. And then later on down the line, we might actually have some like competitive events where somebody is in the tower and then somebody's maybe part of the Maulers. It's kind of fun like that. Drunk Fisherman says, I have a question. Put your question in the chat. Gino is going through all of the questions now, putting them up on a little sheet for me, so that actually I can track everything as it goes along. A couple other little things. People are sad it's not on Audible. Well, it could be eventually. Usually, what happens with our releases on Audible is that we create them, we release them in the podcast form, and then when they're finished, then we take out the commercials and stuff, and then it goes back onto Audible in that capacity. Will Descendants be on there? Maybe not for a while. Gold Rush took a while to get on there. And because of the way we're releasing Descendants, it may take some time for that to happen. But it could happen one day. It's one of these things where we have to, release it on certain platforms first, and then we go from there. Hi, Jotan. Jotan plays Nicholas, and if you might be familiar with him in the series. Spicy says, what's my favorite character? Maybe you can talk about your favorite new character to write, or maybe who surprised you the most as a character. Okay, so I guess a couple things. My tried and true character, I'm still a big fan of CJ. I mean, that's always been one of my favorite characters. Little known fact is, if I was going to have a girl, I was actually going to name her CJ because it would be Kc Jr. and I'd be Kc Sr. then. But I had a boy, and his name is August Nicholas Wayland, so you can see where the middle name has some relevance. Weirdly enough, it's actually my wife's two grandparents' names are August and Nicholas, and that's actually where we named the character from We're Alive after them. There's a lot of character naming that goes on that's relevant to my personal life. Like I actually do have an Aunt Kelly, so that was a really early on callback to my aunt. She actually does work in legal. She's not a lawyer, but she does work in a legal capacity. Hopefully I'm not giving too many personal things away. Don't stalk my family. Let's see here. So who am my favorite new character to write? I really enjoy Alex. Alex is one of my favorite characters. I enjoy Nick. I enjoy Vera. I mean, it's hard to separate them because they all are. It's interesting because they have pieces of their parents, but they're also new in their own capacity, and they have to explore their own selves in this new world, and that's fun for me. And I really enjoy even some of the offbeat characters. Like I love writing Walrus. I'll be honest. There's a line that's coming up in the next episode. That's a Walrus line, maybe a Bert line also that's in there. That is my absolute favorite. And you'll know it when you hear it. It's pretty fun. And I'm surprised. One of the most controversial characters, I will say, is still Dot. I have found some people love the character, some people hate the character because they don't like the repeated the dialogue bit. But at the same time, It was really risky, I think, in some ways to create a character that's like that in an audio only capacity. But also, there's so much story behind her and what she went through and how she got her name, and it's just there's so much trauma that happens in this world that uh, it, it felt right to include something along those lines. So it's been fun. It's been fun to explore all these different character iterations, and we actually have some new characters coming up that'll be in season 2. Some new, some old, that come up again that I've been dying to hear, and actually got to hear for the first time while writing, which is very cool because you create a character probably, I don't know, 8-9 years ago, and you don't get to hear them until you write them, and so it's kind of a fun writer's discovery. Seeing a lot of hype for the Minecraft story of survival mode. It's gonna be fun. It will be survival mode. We're not gonna do hardcore because that'd probably be too much. But I'm excited for it. Back in the day when we had a forum, somebody actually did do something like this, and I think it'd be fun to have a whole community like build their own little tower and see how it works and start from scratch. And I don't know, it'd be kind of fun. I'm looking forward to it. A lot of people want a TV movie of We're Alive, TV or movie of We're Alive. I would too. It's one of those things that I think in time we will hopefully be able to do. But at the same time, we're not in any rush. There's a lot of television out there right now. A lot of shows that pop around, and some that disappear very quickly too. There's a lot of adaptations of other podcasts that get options, and one of the big things for us is we would want to do a couple things. One, we'd make sure it was done right, and two, we'd actually be able to do it with some longevity, because it would be horrible to do one season and all of a sudden disappear, or just a piece and then all of a sudden nothing happens. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be something that we'll be able to do in the future. And there's also somebody says, what about a video game? Same thing there. I'm open for all these iterations, and it may be something that we'll see after the completion of the series. We actually don't have a whole lot left of the We're Alive world. It has a finite ending, and I'm slowly getting there. We have Descendants Season 1, Season 2, and Season 3. So it's a 3-season arc is the plan. The other thing that's going to happen is we have written and produced and actually recorded We're Alive Scouts Honor, which is our other small mini-series that's going to come up eventually. I say eventually because we're still working out the release plan details and all of that. I know we have some of the cast has already recorded, and they're eagerly awaiting. Some of them may see maybe popping into the live stream here or there. It's just one of these things where for our productions, they take a lot of time. They take a lot of it takes money to create. I'll be honest, because we have to pay our editors, we pay our musicians, we pay our actors, everyone that's involved in the project. We try and fairly compensate for their time, because this stuff takes a long time. I think at minimum, some of these episodes are taking the episodes, not chapters, episodes alone take 100 to 130 hours plus of editing alone, because it's just a lot of time of going through, recording footsteps. Every time you listen to a chapter, that's another, an hour at least. So it just takes a lot of time for this for every iteration of these to get done, and to be done right. Because when you listen to all the details, if you listen on one little headset, you may get some of the experience. But I'll be honest, if you listen in on some really great speakers, you'll hear a lot more of some of the details that go into the background. All right, some more questions that are coming in, so keep them rolling in the chats. Gino here again is typing them out for me, so I can cover them as I go. So if I missed it on the first time, Gino's probably catching it. So stay in there, stay in with your questions as we continue on. This live stream will continue. I'll keep it going until I have nothing else left to say. Other questions. Will Ink have a short story as well? How he turned into Ink. This is my favorite show ever. So thank you. Will they have their own story? I don't know. I mean, we did cover enough, I think, in the story of survival with Ink and what happened with them. We did get enough information of how they sort of began, and um, there is a question about the origin of the quote-unquote zombies. Will that be getting more information in Descendants? I hope this isn't a spoiler, but yes, you'll get more information about some of the background of what happens and what happened originally and how it all began. And it was something, this is a question hopefully it doesn't spoil it for anybody, but at the same time, it's something that I didn't have a place for to include in the story survival. And there was a big reason for that. Is because um, sometimes the self-discovery of this has to happen naturally inside the story, and none of the characters in the story survival were ever in a position to ever learn about how things began. So that is something that is more poignant and more, it will come up inside of Descendants because of the broad plan that's happening there. There's a lot of big pieces that are in motion that may not be totally aware at this time, like the intention of Prim and the plan behind Prim and what's going to happen there. A lot of these are big pieces that'll end up moving into place eventually. Just may not be totally known at this current time. So there's yeah. If you listen to the previous iterations, it's one of these things where you may not be totally aware of some of the bigger steps that happen until they actually happen. Like for instance, the Randy storyline was one of those. Is that people were like, "Who is this? What happened?" And then all of a sudden it happens, and they go, "Oh, okay, now it makes sense." Well, there's some of that happens in Descendants. It's just a little bit different because we're telling also a bigger story. It covers a bigger area, and it's just one of these storylines that it does things differently than story survival. Some people may love it, some people may not. It's just we're going to cover things that we did not cover in the first series and explore new ground that maybe you've been excited to see and you don't even know yet. All right, so let's keep this going. Scott says, the current feeling that all my favorite characters from the original are at risk, just cruelty. That is true. I think that's true about almost all the characters, is there's no one who is safe in this. And that was sort of the setup from the first episode, is that this is a totally new story. This is, this isn't... The original people from the original story are not always the main characters, and sometimes we're going to be with them, sometimes we're not. And there is going to be a little saying that it will come up in the story that I really love it from a writer told this one time. I don't know the original source, but all stories have a sad ending if you tell them long enough. So that is something that it's kind of been in my head is that, all stories... get to that sort of point where you will lose the characters that you love if you tell a long enough story, because it's all based in reality. It's all, it's what it is like to be human. So keep that in mind. Hello from the UK. Hello back to you. Gino, if you don't mind throwing in the names of who throws these up, just so I can give them a little shout out too. Okay. Will you do a Michael story? People want more Michael. We will. This will be a little bit of a spoiler, but there is a flashback coming, and we might have more flashbacks in the future about some things that have happened in the past in between. So that will happen. That was Robsta from the UK. I hope I pronounced that correct. Let's see here. Jose's asking, anything you can tell about the special infected that are in the arena? Check out our Patreon. That's a message from Gino. So on our Patreon channel, if you're curious about some of the details of the infected, we have like little infected profiles on our Patreon that go into a little bit of the background stories. It's actually they're excerpts from Tanya's journal, which Tanya went through the red zone around 2019-ish, which is the past now. When I wrote it, it was the future, but she went around and documented a lot of the infected so that other people could learn exactly, what the kind of dangers that they pose and the details that they are. It's actually going to work itself into the story too as well, because we have the Yeti. These are all like common names that people nickname this stuff. So like the Yeti, Skinwalkers, ice crawlers. Those are the three that we've seen in the story already. Also the Sea Dogs. These are all evolutions of the the infected that we saw before, because they were so they have a flexible genome, so they have very adaptable traits. Also, their reproductive rates are incredibly high. They don't take long to mature. So that's why we're getting so many iterations of these now from all over the area, and a lot of them don't get along either, which is something that we'll end up seeing. So yeah, if you're interested in more about that, we have some background on our Patreon channel. Also, that is a way that people support us. Lots of really cool pictures and things and behind the scenes that you may not have seen before, and some video too. Now that we are caught up, we can actually show you some behind the scenes videos of our recording process, and even how we threw some of our main characters underwater for this iteration. We actually not to well, it's somewhat not anyway, spoilerish. Is one of our characters, we recorded them underwater and had them scream because we wanted to get that natural bubbliness, and so that'll be a video that we'll post shortly. Let's see here. Keeping this moving along, Solomon asks, any plan to explore Boulder or the army base more? There's not much left there. So probably not. So it's pretty much gone. There will be actually a little bit of a slight recap of something that happened at Boulder in the future, but it's not a huge thing. It's just kind of a side story and the aftermath of what happened there. Yeah, excuse me. Doing a lot of talking here. All right, so fisherman, are you based in California? Yes, I am. It's nice out here. The weather is starting to go a little cold, which is good and bad. It is a little bit of a break. It's we had a couple weeks where it was well over 100 and got pretty miserable. But yeah, we're based in California. A lot of the story that you will see inside of Story Survival comes from personal interactions of places that I have been, so that we could best describe these places. Like Fort Irwin, that was a location that back before we went to that location, I actually got to go on the base and reiterate what that location was like. Go through some of the facilities, learn about their water, learn about how they can survive off grid, things like that. That was something that was very important to me, to be able to bring about some realism to that location. And it's in the middle of nowhere too, so it was kind of an ideal scenario, and it also let me bring in that militaresque background that is sort of my background, because I was in the military for a long while, and I actually went to Fort Irwin and played out in the box for a little bit. I had a pretty traumatizing event happen there. It's very very big side story, but I actually got a hair caught in my eye that wrapped around in the middle of the desert. And they actually had to bring me back on the post to fix me because we got that bad out in the field. Horrible experience. Don't recommend it for anybody. But yeah, very very dusty, very very gross. And I knew it wasn't one of my hairs because Anyway, Sammy says, really love listening, and the production value you put into all these is incredible. Thank you for continuing the story. Well, thank you for listening, Sammy. I do appreciate it. Yeah, all these details, it's what we do to make sure that everyone enjoys the story, and it's one of these things also where we've been telling the story for so long that we have to make sure that it's continues to be good as we go. Scott says, who's your favorite character for development? For me, Pegs turned out amazing. From the Flower Shop Girls to one of the most importance at the start of the colony. Yeah, Pegs is also one of my. I really enjoy Pegs as well, because you get to see how she's changed over the series. Some people are like, I don't like Pegs, but the reality is, if you actually look at the scope of the series, Pegs has saved the main characters many times and doesn't really get a lot of credit for it. Both with her, ability to raise food. That's something that we didn't really spend that much attention on, but also being the pilot that she is, and also now in the story, she's still fighting for the people that she loves and doing it in the way that she can, and she does it without raising a weapon. That's just who she is. And I'm trying to find a way to insert why she doesn't raise a weapon into the story. It was something we talked about in a Patreon, or actually a We're Live archive session, a long time ago, but hopefully it'll find its way into the story. It's just one of those things that I couldn't shoehorn in the background of what happened with her. Will there be La Manjera? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Will there be a hard copy of the journal? Maybe, hopefully. We are making some book stuff. We might make a journal in the future that's a hard copy. That's kind of our hope. We want to get enough artwork behind it. That's actually an interesting. One moment. That's an interesting thing. Is actually we are working on new artwork as well. So if you know anybody who is interested in doing artwork potentially on a contractual basis for us, we are looking to do more artwork. They can email us at podcasts@waylandproductions.com, or just send us a contact through the website, and we'll be able to get back to you. So if you're interested, please let us know. We are looking to do more print things. Demetrius from our Discord server says hi. If you are interested, we do have a Discord server. Gino, how can we give him a link to that? I think it's on our website. If you're interested in joining that, it is on our website, and also in our link tree as well. If you're on Instagram, you can see it on there. The other thing I was going to say is we also are on Reddit. I'm fairly active on the subreddit for We're Alive on there, and if you have theories, it's a great place to talk about them. And we do have our Facebook fan group, which is also out there as well. Also, Gino, would you mind sharing this live stream onto that feed? Because we are currently live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. But it'd be nice to throw that up on the group as well. I should think you should incorporate Canada with a colony up here. Well, Canada is not the greatest place in terms of the story of We're Alive anymore. It's not super secure. Some of the species that we see in today's episode are in Canada, and it's not very safe. So Canada has not done very well. Also, the cold and being able to stay warm and the resources required for that. There are some people that live up there. There is a colony, but they're very few and far between, and they are roughing it, and I do mean roughing it. The red zone, which is the unincorporated areas between Westport and the Mississippi River, aside from the Republic is down south, but all that area, there are little colonies out there, but they struggle because, as you see, the infected have gotten more and more difficult to deal with, both in size, mass, and threat. So a lot of them don't do too well, which is why we don't really, have too many stories about them. I will say there are some little stories about some of those establishments in a little series that we did that's on YouTube called We're Life Frontier. It was an effort that we did with Ivan Van Norman and Geek and Sundry back in the day. That sort of is an RPG storytelling campaign that follows the characters on one of the rail lines and some of the things that were going along there. There's some overlap with the We're Alive world, not too much. You get to learn a little bit more about the UA, but it's still something that is kind of a standalone story that we got to explore with there. Any live events planned? Well, as of right now, no. I think what I'm planning on doing, the next live event will probably be the finale of Descendants. And the reason why is because we are still dealing with some of the restrictions on events with COVID stuff. I mean, yes, it's calmed down considerably, but live events can get very expensive. People like to come a long way, and I like to have live events that are pretty impactful that will allow people to, if they want to come for a long way away, that they can attend the event. So yes, so we will have them in the future. We may do some live stream events, like we may actually live stream the finale or something like that for first season. We'll figure out some of those details a little bit later on, or we might release it on the podcast and then do a live stream of it. We're kind of figuring that out. Did you find moving away from the journal style storytelling hard? Yes and no. This is a great question, Scott, because One of the things about the journal storytelling style that was, intrinsic to the original Story of Survival is that it was very much a backbone for how you told the story, but it was also a restriction, meaning that if a journal wasn't written, you couldn't see the events that took place. We skirted that a little bit here and there with whoever was around at that time. The problem with it is a little restrictive. Is you get to have the narration, which is great for people to understand what's happening and going on, but also at the same time, you don't get to see the perspective of what's happening. So, like some of the things that we're seeing inside of Descendants, where we're going onto the other side of things, we're seeing some things that are happening with, Walrus and the Boar, some of their conversations. We'd never get that because our survivors wouldn't be there. Also, when you have a journal that's written about an event, you know that somebody got out, so somebody survived to be able to recount that story. I wanted to get away from that because I felt like I want to sometimes be in scenes that maybe not everyone does survive, or maybe you don't get an accounting for what actually you get an accounting of what happened there, but it's not actually in a journal, like maybe some events we've actually seen already. So it does take a little bit more work in terms of like the dialogue that happens, and there are some things that maybe could be a little bit clearer if we did the journal style, and I think some people sort of miss that. But at the same time, I think if you listen to the episodes and you're kind of paying attention, you'll get an understanding of what's happening. And some things are a little bit more ambiguous, like maybe you don't get the exact detail of how something unfolds, but you get the general gist of it, and so your imagination plays a little bit more into that. So that's kind of like it's kind of a mixed dice. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm curious how if some people who listen to the episodes multiple times, they can pick up more pieces. But we try our best to give you as much information via the sound effects, via the characters, iterations of what's happening. And also, I'm trying to incorporate more storytelling techniques in audio that kind of explain what's happening, where we'll take advantage of certain montage sequences in the future. Also, there's a little bit more connection between the scenes, where sometimes somebody's like, if they're staying at, like in this episode today, as they're staying away from the infected, they'll be fine. And then all of a sudden cut to, they're not staying away from the infected. So there's a lot of transitional elements that's done in the storytelling now for audio that's a little bit more fluid to make the storytelling as engaging and clear as possible. Digna says the scenes in the water were amazing. Great work. Thank you. That was very difficult. I pushed our editors very hard in this. Our main editors on this are Gino Zhang and Victoria Chang. And we also have our assembly cutter and voice cut editor, Tim Mulhern, who does the trailers as well. We have a fairly big team. Also, shout out to Michael Keene, who does a lot of the infected sound design as well. They get the scripts and they see what I'm trying to do in these scenarios, and I'm really trying to push the envelope with what we can do with sound, putting them in environments that are tricky to do, but take advantage of the audio qualities that are out there. And including things like, having those characters scream underwater, which we had one of the actors come back and scream underwater, and record that and actually put a microphone in the water, which worked great the second time. First time the mic got a little wet, but it actually didn't bother. It didn't damage it at all. But we were able to make it work. We were experimenting with sound and trying new things, like going through snowy environments, and it's a lot to do, but also it's really fun and engaging. And we push the envelope again with later episodes with what we do with sound, and even some of the stuff from season 2. I'm really excited to get to, because there's some action sequences that are going to be pretty hard to pull off, but I'm certain that we can do it. But that's the fun of this, is like with an audio storytelling like this, you can put the characters anywhere, you can put them in any scenario. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we had so many helicopters and planes and different scenarios where really you can do whatever you want, and the story is not limited in any capacity. I'm not joking, there is a sequence coming up that I didn't know if it was going to work. Gino is working on it, and I've actually heard it, and it works beautifully. But wow, I was so worried if it was going to be able to work. It does involve water again, but it also involves something else, and I'm going to leave it at that. It's coming up in a future episode, so see how it goes. Kamaha says, "I miss Datu. I miss them too. We have done a lot of shout outs to Datu. There's the Mata Memorial Hospital. Gino says, "Wait, what?" Chief says, "Thanks for your hard work and dedication, bringing us such a great story in the world." Oh, thank you, Chief, for listening and spreading the infection. Hello from Texas. The Republic, a place that we will explore in the future. If you don't know, in the story there is a map. I believe it's on our Patreon. We'll probably end up sharing it on our social medias eventually too. There are 3 major establishments in the United States. We have Westport, which is a very small place in Southern California. We have the Republic, which is pretty centralized in South. And on the right is the east of the United States is the UA. Gino says the map is not really up yet. It's not finished unless it's finished and I can post it. Gino, you can post it. I took out some of the locations that come up in Season 2 that are not on there. So just make sure that those locations in Season 2 aren't on the map and we can release it. Someone was asking about TikTok. We don't have to talk about this, but we are trying to get TikTok going again. I haven't really been active on TikTok myself. It's something that we may do in the future. For right now, we have plenty of social medias. We got Facebook, we got Instagram, we have Twitter. We can add in another one later on. We'll get there. Chloe says, "What do you want to do after you tell all the stories of We're Alive?" Well, I don't know. Should I share this? Why not? I've been working on a story called The Modern Man for a long, long time. Yes, it has dust on it right now. And that's my next big story that I'll get into. I have plugged it for years, and I've been working on it. I've been working on the story since 2006-ish. It's a really fun story. It's very different from We're Alive. Got some quirky characters, some different little things that happen in the world, and the main character is incredibly unique. It's a little bit more sci-fi than what I do. I mean, We're Alive is pretty sci-fi too, but at the same time, it kind of goes in a very interesting direction. And I'm excited to tell that story. So that'll be the one I tell after We're Alive. Now that I have only about a season and a half left to write, I'm halfway through season 2, and that only gives me season 3 and the rest of season 2 to write, and then I can say farewell to We're Alive for a bit. It's been a great journey, I'll be honest, and it would be sad to say goodbye to everybody and everything, but at the same time, I'm ready to move on to another story eventually. But that does not mean that I'm not spending my life inside of We're Alive for as much as I have been. And it's been a big journey, and the fun thing about it too is all of the little iterations along the way, including things like Gold Rush and Lockdown. It's all one big story. So even though these are side stories that may seem not as connected with the main storyline, they actually do a lot to set up things that'll happen next. So if you haven't listened to Gold Rush or Lockdown, please do. There's some really, really interesting things that'll end up playing into the storyline of Descendants later on. And yes, Gold Rush is not about infected and zombies. It's the one storyline that kind of diverts from the typical formula. It spends more time about the characters and what happens there, and the backstory of Alex, and gives him the sort of some definition before we get into this next story. And there will be some big payoff stuff coming from Gold Rush, so I want you all to understand when it happens. T in the Sahara says, "Shout out from the UK, Casey. Cheers for continuing to deliver a truly awesome podcast. We're Live inspired me to begin writing podcast reviews." Aw, thank you so much. Yeah, T in the Sahara, if you haven't checked out, does a lot of really great reviews online. And they've been very active in their support for We're Alive. So thank you very much. We genuinely appreciate it, and all you do. All right. Drunk Fisherman says, "What's the hardest part in the whole process?" It really changes. I think part of it is editing and keeping up with the post production process is pretty difficult. How do you, Icon 187? Welcome. I think that's a big part. Also, writing is another difficult part too, because um, with each iteration that I've written, I'm trying to keep it new. I'm trying to keep it fresh. I'm trying to do something different than what I've done before, but also not change the formula too much. Trying to also have some pieces come together that are difficult. Some of the character arcs, because it's almost like you're building a gigantic house of cards where you have to you built a good foundation, and then every single iteration after that has to match up and meet up with what you've laid down before, because you don't want to have it come crashing down. Also, you want to work into the final conclusion, which is the very top, and to make sure that you have all the support to do that when you get there. Support being where the characters are at, their emotional journeys, the arcs that they've gone through. So I'd say probably the writing process is probably the most difficult, especially at this iteration when there are so many things that I've had to remember from thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of material already. So that's probably one of them. Jesus says, "I love We're Alive, loving all the new content. I still don't understand how quickly the infected evolved into what they are now. Does Tanya's journal explain this?" Actually, it does a little bit. I can explain it a little bit as well, but essentially that we've seen from the infected in the previous iterations that they're incredibly adaptable. Their genome's fairly flexible, and like Inc noticed this and was able to exploit it and experiment on it. That's why we got some ones that are the little ones, the gigantic ones, and so a small factor introducing into their biology changed them in a dramatic way. Well, the same thing happened when they started breeding and having different iterations. Their adaptable qualities mimicked that, and they were able to then, with each generation, they were able to change pretty considerably in their environment. So the infected genome itself is very flexible, is the best word I can describe for it, where they start to inherit properties of their environments to best adapt and survive. They are far more advanced and flexible than, say, humans, and we're already seeing like four generations down, and each generation is incredibly different from the last one. So that's sort of, and also Tanya does explain a little bit in the journal. There is an infected equation as well, that is part of it, is part of her journal. So other little background things if you're really curious. Will we see Duncan again? Jose's asking that. Maybe. It's one of these things where I believe if Duncan did what he did, I don't think he'd want anybody to find him again. That's just my perspective. Scott says, "Was the original tower in Westport's boundaries, or is it outside?" Ooh, good question. What is Puck's rank? Is he higher than his new general, Hogs? Okay. Really good story questions on that one. So the tower, I believe, is in their borders. Dunbar is not. So they do have a memorial there at the original tower. Now, I hopefully I'm not wrong on this. I'm going to double check after this live stream to make sure I got that right, and maybe do a follow-up post if I'm wrong. But I believe it is inside of the original boundaries. I should check the map. I don't want to do it during the live stream. But anyway, yes, I believe it is. What is Puck's rank? Is he higher than the new General Hogs? No, he is actually kind of retired now. He did have Hogs's position at one point. Actually, it went from Puck to Michael to Hogs. Basically, it's the general of the army. And so that was Puck at one time. Hogs used to be in charge of training, and then Hogs has taken over Michael's position after the things that happened in Chapter 1. Demetrius asks, is the Republic going to be typical bad villains with no goodness in their hearts, or will there be more depth to the leaders and everyone involved, more complex characters? Yeah. I mean, the Republic is not a just dark force for no reason. They have a reason for what they're doing, and some of the other things that they're involved with as well. Um, and it will play a big part in the end. There are no black and white lines in this world. It's just, everything's a little bit different. Does it end with a musical? Actually, there is a musical, possibly. But it has to do with an entirely different side story that maybe might come out one day, but we'll see. It's something that I did toy around with. I did write like one of the songs just for fun, just to see, can I write any lyric? Who knows what the music will sound like? I'm not a musician, so I'm not sure about that one. Josh says this show helped me get through the nights when I first started truck driving. I think I've listened to it all the way like 4 times now. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's the nice thing is if you have a long trip, you can just listen and cruise. Jay asks, Jay says, I'm completely blind, so I love this series so much. Thanks, Jay. We really appreciate you listening, and yeah, we try to do our best to put every bit of attention into the audio. And we have quite a large following of visually impaired listeners that we love doing this stuff for, because it's kind of like you get to have the full experience as everyone does through the audio, and I don't know, it's really fun for us. Mike says, hey, from Calgary, love the series. Hey, Mike, we love you. Can't wait to hear The Modern Man, says Chloe. Chloe, interestingly enough, it might actually not be an audio drama. It may actually be a visual series. I'm debating that right now because I've pitched it. It seems like the same thing is happening back in the day. Like we pitched out We're Alive as a visual series and then ended up making audio. If no one ever picks up Modern Man, I actually may make it an audio series just because it's, producible. And what is a script if it's just sitting on a shelf? Yukon says, listen to Bronzeville. That was fantastic. Didn't you direct that audio drama? Yes. So Bronzeville was another audio drama that I directed and produced. Also with Lawrence Fishburne and Lorenz Tate. It was a really great series. We have 2 seasons out of that. Will there be more? I don't know. We'll have to see what happens in the future. You never know. Also, we have some other audio dramas that we made. One of them is, actually both of them are on Audible for the most part. It is The Division Hearts on Fire, which is a story in the Ubisoft world of The Division. I wrote and directed that one. Also, Motel Evil is another little storyline that we have on Audible as well. And we have other on podcast form too, like Verdict was one that we didn't write that one. We directed and produced it. So check those out. We also have some others that are being worked on right now, both for Audible and Independence, so stay tuned. Where does the inspiration come for the tribe voices? The infected sounds like they're unique, but the last scene was very complex and cool. I listened to the first scene, 6-2, and it's one of my favorite scenes. There is a quote-unquote infected language that is sort of been developed in this process. It is not a real language. It has some inspiration from some phonetic words. And then I modified and changed a whole lot and created sort of the language that they have, because the infected had a language for a very long time, and it kind of was buried with them, but it's very much active, and their symbols mean things, and their language meant things too. And so we're now seeing the re-evolution of it in a way, and it kind of comes back to the surface because the infected retain certain things. That's all I'll say. Let's see here. Casey, been listening to We're Alive since it first appeared. Thanks. Still one of the best productions ever made. What are some of the best modern fiction podcasts in your opinion? That's a tough... Sorry, 1 second. That is a tough one to answer. I know we're friends with Leviathan Chronicles, who's coming out with a new one, I believe even tomorrow. There's been a lot of very dynamic stuff coming out from like from Q Code and a couple other Magnus Archives is another one. The fun thing about the audio world is there's so many different flavors of these things that are out there. And they can do different perspectives from all over the world. White Vault is very good about exploring all these different places. The list goes on and on. What's funny is the audio drama community is relatively small, so we're actually friends with most all of them, and have been there in some capacity. I've done like little guest spots on some people's shows here and there. So there's a lot of really good ones out there. Unfortunately, because I spend so much time in the audio world writing and directing, and I don't get to listen to very many because most of the times I'm either listening to We're Alive or spending time, not doing audio drama things and getting away, because ear fatigue is a thing that happens when you listen to too much audio after a while and focus on it directly. So that is a thing that happens. So you have to be fairly careful about that. Why is my mic going in and out? 1 second, let me check that. Is it gone now? Yes, I was getting a phone call on my phone. I should have turned it off. Yeah. So, Josh, any tips for building that house of cards and keeping all the details straight? Writing tips? Yeah. So I have a very long, ongoing outline list that I have for We're Alive. That I have like a database of character backgrounds and such to try and keep everything right. And I will say that what I'll do is I do a lot of revisions on the chapters, have other people read them, and they give me notes back. But I will go through and I'll be like, oh, you know what? I forgot that one little thing, or I swapped that thing and we have to do a little fix. So the nice thing is I try to fix it as much as I can in the outline, and then I try to fix it in the script level. And then if it gets all the way to recorded audio, sometimes we'll go through and re-record some things. Matter of fact, depending on what happens in the recording process, we've actually re-recorded entire scenes. There is a scene coming up in the next episode that I did a joke that wasn't very funny. That was like, I was trying to like have one of the characters be very insensitive and have them say something that was slightly offensive, and it didn't work. So I just rewrote the entire scene. And other times where like Nakoma's darts, we said the yellow one and the red one, we swapped the colors. And so we had to go back and fix that. Also, I put Bert's wrong age in the original first 6 episodes, which we are fixing and changing now. He's actually 80, not 85. So Riley actually said the wrong age. So we had to go back and fix that. So sometimes I make mistakes in the process of this, and we can go back and retcon a few things. Also, it happened in the first series too. I had a character, Puck, that was a Mauler that had to be changed to Biscuit because of, obviously I used the name Puck later, but then I forgot I used it for a Mauler as well. So, oops, things happen. But at the same time, the bigger strokes of everything hopefully work out so the House of Cards doesn't come crumbling down. Lamar says, was the scene with Hope screaming about wearing a mask around Michael a nod to COVID? You know what's funny about that? No. I wrote that scene pre-pandemic. We recorded the first 5 episodes, or 5 chapters, in March of 2020. So that was way before anything happened with COVID. So weirdly enough, there's a lot of things. Also, the tests, the QI tests that were developed inside a world to test for infection, that was something that we developed in the story that now is very commonplace of the world. Little COVID tests that go everywhere, and except ours are blood tests. COVID tests are saliva based. So there you go. Nikolai, hey, Tommy here. Hey, Tommy. If you remember, Nikolai played Tommy in the original series. Love what you're doing with the team and with We're Alive. Keep up the great work. Thank you, and thanks for popping in. It was good to see you again. Yeah, Tommy is Nikolai in real life is the son of Scott Marvin, who plays Bert, and Bert, who has been reprising his role for quite some time now, and will continue to. Nikolai played Tommy in the original series. Wesley, Kc, you're a legend, so incredibly talented. Cheers, mate. Cheers, Wesley. Thank you. I appreciate that. Caleb, have you ever considered making this series an animated series, keeping the original audio? We've thought about that. It might have to have some different contractual obligations because when they sign the contracts, I believe it's audio only, but I have to take a look for some of them. But to make it into visual, we could potentially do that. Also, but the thing is, this was designed to be audio only, so we'd have to probably change some lines to have it make sense. So we'll see. Scott, will CJ's presidency be questioned? Yeah. Let's see about that one. Nothing lasts forever. Rob says, if you had to fight a boss infected in an arena, which would you choose? Well, I wouldn't choose a boss infected. I'd choose a little iteration of some small one that's a little bit easier. Let's change the question to say if I had to fight any infected from any of the species out there, which would I rather go up against? I would say the river runners. The river runners, you know, they're not very tough. It's actually probably one of the weaker species because they live in the rivers a lot, but they're also out of the water. They're kind of like, they're almost like fish. Like their skin is very thin because they live a lot underwater. So they're fairly easy to kill. So I'd say a river runner. That's probably the best one. Yukon says Kc really is a legend. I've listened to loads of audio dramas, but none compared close to quality of the one he's produced that I've heard. Oh, thanks, Yukon. Yeah, we spend a lot on this, and I can't tell you. We've done some behind the scenes of some of the details of the show, and really every little tiny detail we put in there. Like Fox Niner says, your attention to detail shows work is incredible, really immerses you. Thomas says, love the storyline. What is next? So we're getting to the end of our live stream here, but what is next is, well, we have the rest of the Descendants season coming up. Next week is our next episode. November 1st will be the next episode. Also, a shout out on Saturday, we have a We're Live archive coming up that will be on our Patreon with guest Jenna McComey, who plays Scratch. So that's coming up this Saturday. If you're not familiar with what We're Live Archive is, We're Live Archive is essentially where we sit down on the couch here. We do a live stream. It's at noon. And we'll be talking with Jenna, listening to the episode, a lot of director's commentary. Some of the things that happen inside the series I can reveal now behind the scenes, some of the tips and tricks, and also some of the little small story things that people may not have ever realized. Like, say, for instance, in Chapter 10, if you listen very closely, you can actually hear the little ones when they're very, very little in the arena. Nod and when their reveal that happens much later on, because they essentially were raising them at that time. But, you know, small little stuff that you won't even know until you listen to it over and over and over, as many times as we have. And last but not least, we'll be releasing more information about the Minecraft server soon. This is something that we're very passionate about. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking to engage with the community. And it's going to be something that's going to be, you know, a lot of fun playing with. And we'll also have... I'll probably be live streaming it to be able to talk with everybody at the same time. I don't know if we'll be live streaming exactly on our Facebook profiles and stuff. We'll probably just use our YouTube channel for that, just so that it kind of keeps it in the lane. And be having fun from there. And last but not least, remember, our next episode comes out November 1st. If you're looking for our release schedule, it is on our website. We've been putting it out there. But I did want to say thank you all for joining us on this live stream. We're really happy to be back. We have a lot of episodes coming up. And I'm going to get back to work on Chapter 11 and then writing the next ones of Season 2. So we're excited for what comes next. Stay tuned, stay alert, stay alive. It's great to be back, everybody. I'm so happy for your support and for all the things you've done along the way. We really appreciate you. And we'll see you in the future live streams. So take care, everybody. We'll see you again soon.